Hey, everybody, Kevin Pelton, NBA writer for ESPN.com, back with another exclusive YouTube video, and wanted to take a moment today to talk about the matchup between the presumptive top two picks in the 2023 NBA draft on Tuesday night in Henderson, Nevada. G League Ignite hosting Metropolitans 92 and Victor Wembanyama going up against G League Ignite guard Scoot Henderson. And this highly anticipated matchup, tons of NBA scouts in attendance, and it delivered everything I think that everyone anticipated from these two top prospects who both made their cases that, they should be the best prospect and that they both would be the number one prospect in a typical year's draft in their performance Tuesday night in a game that both these teams took very seriously. Even though it's an exhibition, it comes in the middle of Metropolitan's 92 season. They've already began league play over in France, G League Ignite getting ready for the start of the G League season. But this wasn't just an exhibition. Starters played a lot. They played competitively, and we saw a lot of players trying to take advantage of playing in front of scouts, particularly these two top stars. And both of them delivered on the potential that we've heard about. It's been a while since I've seen Victor Wembanyama play. Have been following his stats last season in the French league as well as in Euro League, but hadn't seen him play since the U19 championships when with France he went up against the USA front line of Chet Holmgren and Kenny Lofton Jr. in the championship and that U18 competition in the summer of 2020 and summer of 2021. And he looks to have gotten even better from there in that terrific performance. Truly historic night from Wembanyama, scoring 37 points. He had 7 3-pointers on the way, blocked 5 shots, as you'd expect from someone with his size and length at 7'4", 8-foot wingspan. And it's a combination that we've almost never seen in NBA history. I tweeted about this, but according to StatHead.com, only one player in NBA history has ever had at least 5 blocks and 7 3-pointers in the same game, that being Danny Green when he was with the San Antonio Spurs, and that coming in a game that took triple overtime. So that speaks to what Wembanyama is doing and the combination of skills that, we've had a lot of unicorns. The idea of a center who shoots threes is no longer novel or unique, but someone to do it at his size and to do it as fluidly as Wembanyama does is really quite incredible. Something I like to think about sometimes when you're talking about these skilled big men is, there's really two types of players. There are players who are guards with a lot of size, with big man size, and then there are players who are big men who are very skilled. And it's a subtle distinction, but I think you can sort of look at, how fluidly they move and shoot and things like that. Are they more comfortable on the perimeter or in the paint? Questions like that sort of go into it. And I watch Wembanyama, and much more so than any of these other 7-footers that we've seen come into the NBA shooting threes. Maybe Karl Anthony Towns is the exception to this. He feels to me like a giant guard, basically, in terms of his skill set. And the release looks terrific with the form, the elbow being tucked in, particularly when he has time to shoot. But he can also do that off the dribble, which I wrote about this over the summer and talked about it in a YouTube video with Chet Holmgren when we first saw him play in Summer League. That's something we've almost never seen with centers in the NBA, is to have them have the ability to shoot threes off the dribble, and the way that kind of opens other things up. And we saw that from Wembanyama on Tuesday night, in addition to his ability to catch and shoot when he's set up by someone else from the 3-point line. I was really impressed by his ability to deliver the ball as a passer over the top. Obviously, at 7'4", you're going to have great passing angle, but he sees the court well. I thought that was really impressive. The defensive end of the court, no surprise what a presence he is as a shot blocker. With that size and length, he doesn't necessarily have to come and meet you to block the shot, which, even though he had some fouls in this game, nearly fouled out before his 6th foul was overturned on a challenge by the Metropolitans coach, Vincent Collet, who we're familiar with from the French national team. Despite that, I think that's going to help him down the road long-term, avoid foul trouble. Was obviously an adjustment for him and for, many of his teammates coming from the FIBA game to playing under NBA and G League rules in this one. I thought he did a pretty good job handling the defensive 3-second rule and, making sure that he wasn't getting stuck in the paint and getting called for that. The goaltend rule is probably going to be a bit more of an adjustment. Obviously, the other thing with him is continuing to add as much core strength as possible to make sure that he's not getting dislodged. I think that's going to make him more effective on the glass. Only 4 rebounds in this game from Wembanyama, but we're picking nits with Wemby when you consider, again, 37 points, 7 threes, 5 block shots, a truly terrific performance that, I think cemented him as remaining the presumptive number 1 pick going, obviously a lot of time. We've got 8 months until the draft happens, almost 9 months until then. But, Wembanyama did everything he could in this matchup to show that he's the number 1 pick. But Scoot Henderson did plenty in his own right. 29 points, 9 assists, and I think showed a lot of development from last season when he was playing in the G League against, grown men as someone who should have been in his senior year of high school. Now it's what would have typically been his freshman year of college had he gone the amateur development route instead. And big progress from him. There was a lot of talk in the broadcast about the work he put in as a shooter. We saw that take place. He was someone who really struggled from 3-point range during the G League showcase season that the Ignite played last season. Was under 20% from 3-point range and knocked them down and looked confident shooting them. The form looked good. No reason, I think, to believe that was a fluke. I think that's something that he can maintain. And then also his development as a distributor, handing out 9 assists. Last year in that showcase season, they averaged 5.5 assists per 36 minutes. Decent, but not, pure point guard level. And here it was Henderson really in command the entire time, finding shooters when he was driving and drawing help and dishing out to the perimeter. I think this game and the win for G League Ignite, a huge validation of what they've done to build the roster around their prospects this year, have brought in a lot of experienced players and particularly players who can shoot the ball to help space the floor for Scoot Henderson and company. John Jenkins had a huge game in this one, former first-round pick who spent a lot of time in the NBA. Aubrey Dawkins, who's been in training camps, another player with, great shooting ability that's going to help space the floor. And G League Ignite looks like they're going to be a lot of fun as they play a full G League season here. Again, in an ordinary year, you watch a guard put together a commanding performance like Scoot Henderson did in this one, you're thinking, okay, that guy's got to be the number 1 pick. You hear the Derrick Rose comparisons, which makes sense at his height. Maybe a better finisher at this stage than Derrick Rose was. Probably not as explosive an athlete, but very few players Derrick Rose's size have ever been that explosive as an athlete at the same age. But looked every bit the part of a number 1 pick. And, I think the interesting fallout, my colleagues Adrian Wojnarowski and Jonathan Givony wrote about this today is I talked on the Low Post the other day about how teams with really low over-under win totals tend historically to exceed those, that people tend to think they're going to be worse even than they actually are, even though we know that a couple of teams will, win 20 games or so, somewhere in that mark. I probably have to take back everything I said on that podcast, because after watching these two guys, the anticipation has got to be teams are going to be doing everything in their power to position themselves in that top 3 or 4. Top 3 have identical odds going into the lottery. So, it won't affect your chances of getting Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama. Just affects your placement if you don't end up in the lottery. But teams are going to want to maximize those ping pong balls. And that could also be interesting in terms of its effect on the trade market. A lot of these teams that we expect are going to be competing for lottery positioning right now have veterans on the roster, whether it's Miles Turner in Indiana, Buddy Hield as well there. Utah has a number of veteran players left over as they've started this rebuilding process. And I think what we saw Tuesday night in Henderson only accelerates the urgency for some of those teams to make moves and make sure that they're not too competitive at the start of the season and that hurts their chances at lottery positioning. So the throwing thing is we are going to get one more look at these 2 top prospects against each other. A relatively rare matchup like this, especially when you consider that these guys are playing not just in different leagues, but in different countries. But they will be playing Thursday, noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific local time on ESPN2. And if you miss the game on Tuesday, you're going to want to check this out if you possibly can, because they every bit lived up to the billing on Tuesday. It was a terrific, fun game to watch, and hopefully Thursday will be as well. With that, we'll be keeping an eye on Scoot and Wemby all season long as we look ahead to the NBA draft in 2023. And stay tuned to YouTube for more exclusive videos.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.